interesting thing about Winnipeg is it's a small city. It feels like we're in the middle of nowhere, but we have really vibrant arts community here.
What's the one thing you want the people of Winnipeg to learn or appreciate about Ukrainian-Canadian culture after seeing this play?
I've always loved and admired that when families get together around the table, time just stops. And you're just telling stories and sharing food and recipes, and that's the moments to really cherish and appreciate.
During the rehearsal, did you learn anything new or surprising about Ukrainian-Canadian culture?
Because this is coming from Ukrainian communities that have been here for a very long time, the culture and even the language has evolved into its own thing. Some of the traditions that are very important to the communities here aren't necessarily celebrated in the same way as they are in Ukraine.
And there'll be moments where we just turn to the audience and just allow those moments to come in and let the audience know, like, we want you to enjoy this, like, please, like, laugh.
To see the joy on their faces, to see that their culture was represented.
Hi everyone, welcome to the In Canada podcast. I'm your host Yulia Kovalenko. Today we're diving into a one-of-a-kind play that blends culture, comedy, and adventure. Kateryna and Havrylo isn't just about entertainment. It's a celebration of Ukrainian-Canadian heritage and a showcase of the amazing talent right here in Winnipeg. Inspired by old stories, this play takes us on a journey of fantasy and folklore while honoring the deep roots of the Ukrainian-Canadian community in our city. Joining us today are Rachel Smith and Anthony Ference, who play the lead roles of the Kateryna and Havrylo. They've been a part of this project since the very beginning and have brought so much heart and energy to the stage. Rachel, Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
So let's start with the basics. This play is such an exciting mix of humor, adventure, and culture. It feels like a story that draws you in while celebrating Ukrainian-Canadian heritage in a unique way. So can you give us a quick glimpse into the story? What's Kateryna and Havrylo is all about?
Well, we play Kateryna and Havrylo, and we usually will start off by doing something ordinary that you might see an elderly couple doing in the countryside somewhere in Manitoba. So sometimes we might be going mushroom picking or ice fishing, and while we're doing this ordinary thing, something happens and we end up in these fantasy worlds. So that's the premise behind the play.
If you had to capture the heart and soul of Kateryna and Havrylo in just 3 words, what would those words be?
Probably adventure, food, and I don't know, what about that third one? Fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
Why do you think those words best represents the play?
For Havrylo, throughout the whole entire play, he's just all about the food. And I think that it really just is, he enjoys spending time with Kateryna, but he just really wants lunch. Like, the whole thing, he just wants lunch. And, he goes on these adventures. They start off with mushroom picking or ice fishing, and they go through these adventures. And sometimes they kind of, they're, oh great, here we go. But I think, at the end, they kind of do have some fun.
Yeah.
And they enjoy it. And it's a lot of fun for us, at least it is for me getting to do that. So.
Yeah, and for the audiences, it is just it's a fun play. It's a comedy. It's wacky and it's silly, and I think that it's just for audiences. It's just enjoyment.
For all ages too. Like it's great for everyone.
Did Havrylo get some lunch at the end of the play, actually, or not?
You'll have to find out and see.
Have to find out if he ever gets to have lunch.
Yep, it's a running joke, so it's, yeah.
Winnipeg is known for its vibrant art scene, and it's amazing to see how local talent and creativity shine through productions like this one. What role have local theaters, artists, or groups have played to bring these projects to life?
I would say probably the biggest one for me would be the University of Winnipeg. The theater and film program there. the honors and devised theater program really played a huge role for me in not only getting to know Claire, the director and writer, but also just having the skills and the abilities to create work and create a character that no one else has really touched. And that's been truly a rewarding and privileged experience, because, you know, if you see it on Broadway, where it's, I want to play that big Broadway role, and you have something to sort of look up to and to move towards. Whereas for me, for Havrylo, there was really quite nothing that I could go off of except just food and anything else. So that for me would be probably that. What would you?
Interesting thing about Winnipeg is it's a small city.
Yeah.
And Manitoba is, you know, it feels like we're in the middle of nowhere, but we have a really vibrant arts community here, as you said. And I think part of it is just that it's almost like a small town feel to it, that we support each other, and there's just really interesting work that happens. And I would agree that the University of Winnipeg, because all of us were students there and the playwright is a professor there, that it does build a sense of community just even within being a former student, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree that Winnipeg is such a culturally rich city with a blend of tradition from all over the world. How do you think a play like this can bring different communities together and foster a stronger sense of community?
Well, even though this is a celebration of Ukrainian-Canadian culture, I think that it can be relatable to anybody. That it's, you know, it's an older couple, they've been married for a long time, and so there's a lot of those relationship dynamics that we play with in there. You know, like the husband that is a bit of a troublemaker and the wife who's a little bit more no nonsense. I think those characters are like archetypal characters that you can see from anyone. And so I think, you know, coming from any culture, there's something enjoyable regardless.
Okay. It's nice that you did it like related to each of us, right? Not just to Ukrainian-Canadian community, so everyone can come and enjoy, but still it's a big representation of Ukrainian-Canadian culture, which is cool. Every actor has their own journey into production. What was it about Kateryna and Havrylo that made you think, I need to be part of this? Was it the story, the characters, or something else that spoke to you?
For me, I've been involved in the project before there was ever a script. That Claire told me about this project that she was working on, and it was based on stories that her father used to tell her and her brother when they were growing up. And she thought that they were traditional Ukrainian stories, and then realized when she was older that they weren't, that he just made them up. And they grew up in the Interlake, Manitoba area in a small Ukrainian community, and so she wanted to honor those stories and the culture that she grew up in. And so when she explained the project to me, it made me feel very excited to be part of something like that. And then, you know, in terms of once the play started to develop, the characters, we developed the characters, and there was a lot of, you know, rewrites after doing some character improvisation, and so it was a very collaborative creation. Even though like Claire was the playwright, she was inspired by us as well.
Anthony?
Yeah, I had Claire as a second year, and then my final year at the university instructor. So I went up to Claire and I said, I hear you're writing a play. And she looked at me and said, how do you know that? I've never told anyone that, or I haven't told anyone that yet. And I kind of looked at her and went, well, my drama teacher from high school said that Claire was writing a play. And she looked at me and said, well, yes, Claire, the other professor, is writing a play. She just published it. So I went, oh. Well, so I'm like, there's me and my dyslexia being like, sorry, I mixed up the Claire names. And she's like, that's okay. fast forward to, I'm graduating, I get an email from her and says, so that play that you told me I was writing, I've got some bits here, I'd like you to come read for it. And we went and we had lunch, and I was sitting there surrounded by food, and I was just talking, reading the character, reading the lines, and I just quickly fell in love with this amazing character, and to be given the opportunity to play it and then use my dance background or my other sort of background with sort of slapstick and comedy was just sort of like, okay, this is a character I can play with and really just have fun. And then to get to work with Rachel and, working together and collaborating between like the two of us and building that relationship, because we've known each other. She was my TA in first year. So it just kind of all of it sort of come together and everything. And, we've known each other for about 12 years now. So that history, that trust that's on stage it's there for real. And sometimes I'll just improvise and try and mess around, and then it's like, don't do that now. And it's like, okay. But it's been a lot of fun and great. So to have that opportunity and to go back to me being like, oh, I thought you were the one writing this, and messing it up kind of worked out really well for me, I guess, in the end. So.
Winnipeg is such a small city. Everyone is connected.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about Winnipeg arts community, because this community continues to grow and thrive, and production like this are such an important part of that. How do you see Kateryna and Havrylo fitting into the city's cultural landscape? What kind of impact do you hope it has on arts here?
I hope that it really shows that we as like Winnipeg artists can create local art, like really just create stories to tell. There's a lot of individual writers and individual artists here who've got a lot of stories to tell. And I think that with this project, it hopefully will inspire future generations and other generations to sort of take a risk and take a chance to tell that. Because if Claire was to keep these amazing stories that her dad told her to herself, there wouldn't be this great moment, and we wouldn't be really here right now. So that's what I sort of think.
Yeah, I think, we had the opportunity to bring these characters to Folklorama, to the Spirit of Ukraine Pavilion. For 2 years, we were able to do that. Once was as an improvisation and character, and then this past summer we did a little scene that wasn't part of this play. It was a one-off scene, and it was really cool to be able to be part of something like that, because I've never been a part of something like Folklorama before. So it was a really interesting opportunity. And then, we have the Fringe Theatre Festival that we performed this in 2 years ago. To me, I think it's an honor to be able to put this on independently, not part of a festival, something different. Because I think that it just allows the play to kind of speak for itself, rather than just being one of a part of a festival, that it's its own thing that hopefully people will be drawn to and get to have that experience of seeing it.
Yeah. You do have Ukrainian roots, right? During the rehearsal, did you learn anything new or surprising about Ukrainian-Canadian culture and heritage?
I don't think I learned anything new, except for some of the language. We do have some Ukrainian words that are in the script and in the scenes, and I didn't know any Ukrainian before, except for some Ukrainian words for foods. So that was, for me, very new to learn actual words. I don't know how good I am at pronouncing the words. I've worked hard at it.
Can you pronounce it for us now? What words?
Well, you got halapchi, perohe.
Peroshke.
Peroshke. Very good pronunciation. Very nice.
Kava.
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 Harbata.
Always a good cup of coffee. Harbata.
Chube.
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 Chube. We pick mushrooms.
I
Or
don't.
shmorji. Shmorji.
Shmorji, a specific type of mushroom. Pietpenka, another type of mushroom.
Wow, even I don't know these words.
It's a lot of.
Well, actually, you know what? This is something interesting that I learned. So, because this is coming from Ukrainian communities that have been here for a very
Right.
long time, that the culture and even the language has evolved into its own thing. So, there was somebody from Ukraine, an actor that worked with us in the summertime, and she uses different words for some things. But the words that were chosen were words that were used specifically in this community that Claire grew up in. So some of the words might not be the same. And so that's something that we learned that we didn't know before, that there is a different, the language evolved in a different way and the culture evolved in a different way, that some of the traditions that are very important to the communities here aren't necessarily celebrated in the same way as they are in Ukraine.
The culture and traditions 50 years ago, 60 years ago, absolutely different than it's like in modern Ukraine. So
Yeah, I spent about, I'd say, 2 years on Duolingo,
wow.
trying to, get ahead before rehearsals, and then I realized that was Ukrainian Duolingo, not like Interlake Manitoba Ukrainian Duolingo. So what all I took from that was basically like tata to mama tum, like that, and I was like, okay. But hearing it and being able to practice it was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I am Ukrainian, but when I moved to Canada, I learned a lot about my culture. Probably like more about Ukrainian-Canadian culture, because Ukrainian culture is different than Ukrainian-Canadian culture. So that's what I found for myself. Rachel, Anthony, you've been involved in this project for a long time. How the characters being changed during the production?
I think my character has changed quite a bit, even from when we did the Fringe Festival 2 years ago to when we were working on it now. When we have archival footage of the show we did for the Fringe Festival, and when we were watching it, one thing that Anthony and I both commented on is the very first scene. We look so angry, and we were talking and we're wondering why we look so angry in this scene. And so one of the things we've been working on is changing that, so lightening the characters a little bit more, playing within the characters. And I think for Kateryna, because she is a bit of a no-nonsense person, that at first I thought of her as being very serious. But over time, I've realized that she is no nonsense, but she also a little bit enjoys some of the silly things that happen, some of the things that Havrylo does, some of the jokes that he plays, that she, will be stern with him, but she also kind of enjoys it at the same time. So that's something for me that has evolved, is just adding a bit more lightness for my character.
Yeah,
Anthony, what you found for your
Havrylo's
character?
just, like when I first started working with Havrylo, it was pretty just a constantly playing all the time. And this time around, I've really tried to focus on those moments where it's like, okay, now let's bring Havrylo, can he be serious? And I mean, even when he's sort of serious, even when he kind of goes like, I know, I got a plan, it's sort of like, does he really have a plan, or is he just, he's trying. He's trying, right? He's like, I got a plan, I know what to do, I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to talk to the Vidma. And, Kateryna's like, oh, jeez. Like, no, maybe don't do this. And it's moments like that where it's like, okay, yeah, let's try and find these little moments where we can, he can be playful and all this, but then he can be, a little serious and show up when it matters. And, it's been, that first video where we're just like we look grumpy all the time, but I think for me, I was trying to find that, just that old sort of face, because like there's no prosthetic makeup. Like we're embodying these characters and it's all natural, and it's a lot more of a cartoon style based, which is fun because we don't have to sit there like in a chair and get these things on. But it's been great sort of evolving the character and finding more ways to have him relate to people in those moments.
Every play has those magical moments that actor can't wait for the audience to experience. For you, what that one scene or moment in Kateryna and Havrylo that you think will really stand out for the audience?
Oh, that's
Can you
really
share
that's
these
really
moments?
hard to pick just one. There's
so
there's
many
so
good
many
moments.
good moments. I mean, we have so much fun in rehearsals. We have rehearsal this evening, we have a run tonight, and I can guarantee you that we will be laughing while we're rehearsing. And we laugh now so that we won't laugh when there's an audience watching. Because sometimes, some of the other characters, there's 3 other actors who play 19 characters, and they are silly and ridiculous, and you know what? I can't wait for the audience to see the character of the beaver. Yeah.
Beaver, yeah.
Yeah, beaver character. Yeah. Yeah.
3-headed fish.
Wow.
3-headed fish. You got to come see that one.
Yeah, 3-headed catfish. Yeah.
And a huge spock.
Yes.
Like just this massive bird.
Yeah. There's some mushroom henchmen. There's a Baba Yaga character that she has Izbushka as her guards. Yeah. So every scene has something where I'm just excited for the audience to see what kind of antics our characters are gonna do.
Like, we get to share those moments too with the audience, which is really great. And there'll be moments where we sort of, we just turn to the audience and just allow those moments to come in and let the audience know, like, we want you to enjoy this. Like, please, like, laugh. Don't sit there quietly. Just laugh, root for characters that come on, cheer. And yeah, it's pretty great. They're all everything you got to do. I can't pick one.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't. Like, there's, maybe each scene has like some bits, but it's also just like, it's like, come join us on this adventure and see what happens to us. And
I'm excited to join to this adventure.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you want the people of Winnipeg to learn or appreciate about Ukrainian-Canadian culture after seeing this play?
Not to talk about food again, as Havrylo always talks about food and wants lunch, but I've always loved and admired that when families get together around the table and time just stops, and you're just telling stories and sharing food and recipes, and that's the moments to really cherish and appreciate. We don't really have that in the show, but that experience of having that, we've taken the time to build the show, and when we're on stage all together, those moments happen. We bring that to the stage, and it's really quite beautiful that even when it's a really high intense scene, or we're in the underlake sort of swimming, it's still moments of bringing everyone together, and it's those for me, I cherish those and value those a lot. And
Yeah, I guess, as I mentioned, our characters will they start off going mushroom picking. And that is something that even with my own family, even with my mom and my uncle, they will talk about, a patch of mushrooms that they found, and they've gone and they've picked mushrooms. My uncle this past summer was talking about, he found all these shmorji, which is a certain type of mushroom that grows in the springtime, and he was so excited for these shmorji, and he cleaned them up, and he cooked them all up, and my aunt had no interest in eating them, and so he enjoyed them for himself, and he kept going on, and he had like one there, and it was my first time seeing a shmorji in real life, and in that moment I was sitting there thinking, okay, like, these characters are rooted in that culture, and because I've been working on it for so long, I just kind of forgot that even though we go on these adventures and these crazy things happen, that it is rooted in that rural life. It is rooted in those small town communities and in those those lifestyles.
Being part of a production that celebrates and uplifts a community is such a special experience. How does it feel to know that Kateryna and Havrylo is not just entertainment, but also a source of pride and inspiration for Ukrainian-Canadian community?
I feel honored to be able to present something that is such a celebration. I mean, when we did it for the Fringe 2 years ago, I had some family that would come, or people who were in the community who came, and to see the joy on their faces, to see that their culture was represented. That we do have cultural representations. We do have, a lot of Ukrainian dance, and there's quite a few Ukrainian dance schools actually, which is, considering how small a city we are, there's quite a few of them. But I haven't seen a lot of theater, and so to me it feels like a unique opportunity to be able to present something like this that is completely original.
Yeah. Even for Ukrainian newcomers, it's really exciting to see that Ukrainians in third, fourth generation still remember those traditions, still celebrates it, still represent it. Rachel, Anthony, from festivals to independent production, what did you learn from this experience?
The overall process when we did Fringe Festival, I think we had, I'd say, a little bit more time, I guess. And like Fringe is in July, so I knew about the project, and I knew that Claire wanted to do something around like November. And then we met, and we had a fairly structured and lengthy rehearsal process, which was good, because at the start we were able to play with the characters, see how they interacted, see how the two of us interacted with the other characters. The Fringe show, we only had the first 3 scenes. So it was the fall, winter, and spring. And then at the end we did a little bit of there might be more, which was moving us towards this, where now we have a summer, scene 4. And this process has been a lot to get that scene up to where the other 3 are. And it's been a process of then ironing out everything that we sort of felt, worked but didn't work, or we had to rearrange and I guess rework, because then we added this scene, so then some things changed, and we wanted to keep it consistent.
For my perspective is different, because I produced the show, and I produced when we did For the Fringe as well. It's a lot of work to put on production, just generally, but when you do it for a festival, then for the Fringe Festival specifically, they organize the venues for you, the technicians, ticket sales. They tell you what your tech time is the first time you're in the theater. They make the schedule for you. They pretty much do everything. All you have to do is rehearse your show, put up some posters, and promote it. For this, we had to do everything. So we had to find a theater, book the theater, find how we were going to sell tickets, figure out who's going to be our house manager, the person taking the tickets. We have to find ushers, so people who are there directing the audience when they come in. Promoting it as a completely independent thing, which is different than when it's part of a festival. And there's, I put in a lot of work every week just to doing the producer side of things. And it's a lot of little things that you don't think about, that, something like event insurance. Oh, I guess we need that, that it's not something that as part of a festival you have to think of the same way. So that for me has been the biggest difference, is all of those extra things that you don't really think about as, oh yeah, we have to do this in order to put on a play. We need a theater, you know? So that's been a big, big difference, yeah.
How is the enthusiasm for the production so far?
A lot of the Ukrainian groups are very excited about it. That we've had excitement from any time we mention it. People go, oh, great. We've had a few places that have just offered to include information about our production in their newsletters and on their own social media channels, even without asking them to do that. There have been people who've offered to do that for us. We do have one show that is a discounted production, or discounted show, which is on the Saturday afternoon, and those tickets have been selling really well. So I would say that if you're interested in a discounted like production to go see it that day, then to book in advance, because those tickets are they're going. Yeah. So, but we have 4 performances, so there's lots of opportunities to be able to see it.
Rachel, what advice would you give to those people who are trying to create their own production?
My biggest advice is to allow yourself time. That one of the biggest challenges for this production is that we put it together in a very short amount of time, and this was because of unexpected circumstances. So I think that if you know that you want to put something on, an independent production on your own, especially if it's something outside of a festival, then to allow yourself time to do it and to create a schedule for yourself. So one of the most beneficial things I did for myself was I created a schedule of deadlines. So when does the poster draft need to be done? When does a media release need to be done? When do we need to book this thing by? When do we need to find a house manager by? So by creating those deadlines, it allowed me to create my own schedule, so that I could have know what my focus was for each of those things, and just to know that you might spend more time on it than you expect, and just to be prepared for that sometimes it just, you suddenly realize that you forgot something and you have to spend an entire afternoon trying to figure out how to do that something. So just to be prepared for that, and that it'll all be worth it in the end. Is the other thing.
Rachel, what is next for you as a producer and as a performer?
Well, I don't have anything lined up specifically for actual performing producing. I'm starting to run some classes and some workshops. So for me, my next step in my career is starting to offer some different classes and workshops to the general public. Previously, I've been teaching more as part of other schools, but I'm going out on my own and starting my own business. So that's kind of the exciting thing for me. But generally, I mean, in terms of performing, I love performing. It's all I've ever wanted to do. So I'm always looking for opportunities, and I love collaborating on original work. That's what I'm really passionate about, is creating new things and sharing stories. And so for me, I'm hoping to be able to connect with projects, whether it's like this or whether it's something different, to be able to create something new.
Okay, and to wrap up today's episode, my last question would be, what's the one thing you want the people of Winnipeg to learn or appreciate about Ukrainian-Canadian culture?
The sense of community that still exists. That I think one of the reasons we've had such positive responses from people in the Ukrainian community is that it is just that, it's a community. It's a celebration of our cultural roots. And so there's a lot of people who feel connected to it, even if they have never met us before. They hear that, oh, this is a celebration of Ukrainian-Canadian culture. I want to see it. I want to share about it. Let me spread the word. How can I help you? That there is a strong sense of community. And even though, I mean, like, my great-grandparents immigrated here, I don't even know, a long time ago, that there is still a strong sense of culture, even within me. Even though I grew up in the city and in not a Ukrainian community, that there is still that connection, and that connection to where we come from, to that ancestry and those traditions, and that some of those traditions are still there and still alive. So yeah, I think that for me,
the roots are very strong and very deep.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's growing.
It's growing.
It's good.
Okay, Rachel, Anthony, thank you so much. once again for coming and sharing the magic behind Kateryna and Havrylo. I am excited to come and see what you actually prepared for us. So thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
To everyone listening, don't miss your chance to see this incredible production. Kateryna and Havrylo is playing in the Rachel Brown Theatre in Winnipeg on January 23rd and 24th at 7:30 p.m. and on January 25th at 1 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Once again, thank you to Rachel Smith and Anthony Ferenc for joining us today. I'm your host, Yulia Kovalenko, and I'll see you next week on the In Canada podcast.